Okay. Yes, I'm going to do just a couple of things, one or two, and then uh, we see what next. I hope my sound is clear. And those mumpulira, yeah. You let me know you mumpulira, then we can start. Just a couple of things, one or two, then we see what next. Okay, that's good. The sound is fine, and hopefully we can move with that. Okay. Now basically two things. One or two, one, two, three, or four. I don't Sagara Kubala. But now, those of you who have been following the things that are happening, I'm starting to learn until there's a lot of PR, public relations campaign that Museveni has launched to make sure that distracting Amawulire, I don't know for what, but to make sure that he's doing something about the virus. Uh, and one of the most interesting thing is William RUTO. Let me get the tweet here. I saw you see, William RUTO has been coming to Uganda for close to, I think, 6 years now. And Buliwadje Uganda is coming to meet Museveni, which is really interesting. Museveni supporting his campaigns in Kenya. Now, what we should also understand is on the few occasions that the gentleman has been coming, is that Abadengaja, last time he came, the last time he came, Bagulao William RUTO Institute of Institute of Leadership, Makerere. Nembuza mu Uganda, really, what has William RUTO done in Africa or in East Africa for him to be given an institute at Makerere? And what is fascinating is that most people did not even try to follow up that particular issue. Suffice to say, William RUTO is also a person abadde bamutwala mu ICC. I remember very well a couple of years ago when Museveni tried to recommend Colonel Muammar Gaddafi okuba nti bamuwa honorary doctorate at Makerere University. The professors at Makerere stood up and they said they are not going to do it. Nebagana okuwa Gaddafi honorary doctorate. But for Ruto, a person who engaged in massacres and murders that happened in Kenya, all of a sudden, Bamukozemu Institute in Uganda, William RUTO Institute of Leadership. Really? I mean, that is sad. Now, two things are happening. Kanaksaja Karuto will walk over. He's always saying Museveni is the best leader in East Africa, blah, 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 blah. And let me tell you, if this guy becomes president in Kenya, things are really going to be bad for us, if at all we haven't taken this guy out. So if you're following Kenyan politics, whatever happens in Kenya, if Ruto becomes president, it's not going to be good for Uganda. Because Museveni is going to have an ally, they will be able to do everything they want on this face of the earth. Okay, guys, let us go to Ruto. For those of you who know his tweets, Abamanyi Twitter, please let us go there. Okay, now, where is the guy? For us, all we need to do, because for as long as we do not put these tweets there, I mean, we should hit him hard. Do you know more hitting hard every day? Because I reckon like literally in 2016, as a vice president of Kenya, he left his country and came to Uganda and campaigned for Museveni in Busia district. Who does that? Who does that? Literally, I mean, tell me who does that? Chivalaba, Uhuru Kenyatta when in fact Museveni was snubbed mukuzika kwa Kenneth Kaunda. Well, someone might argue Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of the East African community. Well, Museveni is one of the longest serving leaders who have been on the face of the earth when Kaunda was president, whatever, when Kaunda Ngawari. But he was snubbed. Why in the entire East African region? Why didn't they call Kagame or Ndishimie or Samia Suruhu or Uhuru? Because like when you look at all these leaders, literally, Twenda Nomugo is okay, this one can give a perfect speech at Kaunda's barrier. None. What is Museveni going to say? Speech ya Uhuru Kenyatta yaga abakulembeze, the problem of Africa, abakulembeze bana abaganye okuta entebe. Naga nti Kaunda is the person that we can look upon. Chokuba nti managed to resign, managed to leave power peacefully. Naga nti that is the sort of thing that we need to learn from Mr. Kenneth Kaunda. Kali Museveni narrative ye yakyuka bitakyabiyogera. Era wagenda n'akola speech abeera mu Africa. We need Africa to do our own vaccines. Africa. Which is crazy. No one needs Africa speeches. The problem of Africa is governance. The problem of Africa is leadership. So it was befitting for Museveni to be snubbed. Nebabanga baita Mukulu Uhuru Kenyatta. Anyway, that's just a bit of a tangent. Now let us go to this Kasajja Ruto. Now, the problem with this command, Kesaunyo, right? As Zabade Nakarikanga Skaliko. And this Ka professor is also back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking for this Ka professor on Twitter. Whoever knows where this Ka guy is, we have to go after him. Now, Bagami Etino Bagudo factory again to call a vaccine. Let me tell you, get it from me, guys. Let me tell you this. Get it from me. This vaccine factory is not going to work. For those of you who have been following the Uganda Airlines, they invested 590 billion Ugandan shillings. It is all down in the drain. You know what happened with the airline? You know what happened with the airline, guys? Do you know what happened with the airline? Baji BM Nati, one of the bombardiers, Sierra just 900. Akatono, Baka Bamu Nati Yabula. So the aeroplane has been grounded. Egundi Tebuka for almost 1 month. Tebuka. Katibagami did not yemu bajijemu nyonyemu, then bajikwate bajiteke mu nyonyenye eriyoke. Kanati yako whatever that kagundi bakaita ka intake kebabamu. The piece jebabamu eyo nati bajita intake. 590 billion Ugandan shillings gone. Teziriwo. Zonna bazibidde mu Uganda Airlines. And guess what? Senate wazeola. And we have to pay it back. And you tell me mukakati mugenda kuzimba vaccine? Ladies and gentlemen, William RUTO and Museveni, they are scammers. I think that RUTO is a very big scammer. Oyo guy is scammer. He's a scam artist. Mubi mufere. I never knew this guy could be this mufere to this extent. Yali mugula kasori ya Congo, ali South Sudan, Uganda, Ibagula Institute of William RUTO Institute of Education in Makerere. It has never been touched up to this day. Museveni na contributing $10 But we all understand that good must have gone towards RUTO's campaign. So Museveni is trying to make his own leader within Kenya. Well, that's what he's doing. Just like it happened in Rwanda. Just like he interfered in Burundi. So now the Kenyans are if the Kenyans ever allow Ruto to become president, trust me, Museveni is going to interfere in the politics of Kenya and destabilize it. And that is why you see like Uhuru Kenyatta has really been against the Kakai, as well as Raila Odinga. Now, this is the thing. Tugere ku Twitter yeno, tukole omulimu gwaffe nga getusobola okukola bulijjo. Let us give him some sort of nightmare. Naye gy'anaafa ndakatana. Every day, at least we have to go on his tweets. Mumubuulirire yeddeko mumugaite tukyayagala bajinga wajinga. We don't want wajinga in Uganda. You wajinga stay in your lane. This Kagai Karuto akasajja bane na insimayiti akasajja kano kabbi. The first thing kastawe sembereza Museveni no gamba tino is the one who is going to be your mentor in East Africa. Nga Museveni be your mentor, really? Now, this is what is happening in Kenyan politics. There's something called the BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative. It is the deal that is there between Raila Odinga as well as Uhuru Kenyatta and some other people in order to make sure that there is a smooth transition of power from Uhuru to whatever, the next president, without any sort of situation. Now, this Kaman is an outsider. It doesn't come from Karenga or Norabanti. In Kenya, there are families. There is the Kenyatta family, there is the Odinga family. Kenyatta is the son of the founding president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta. Then Odinga is the son of the founding president, sorry, not founding president, the founding opposition maybe of Kenya, Jaramogi. Is it Jaramogi Odinga? His father was called Jaramogi Odinga. Then you have the Moi family. Moi was the second president of Kenya. Then you also have those Chikuyus in terms of tribes, the Chikuyus, the Luos, and that kind of stuff. Now, this guy is an outsider. This Karuto, he's an outsider. Chovola bakaskama kanyonya abakulembeza abali vulnerable. Abatalina credibility mu region je kaddukira abali challenge, like looking up for international recognition, abali bruised bekanyonya. And now this guy nekagende Kenya nekagamba nti, look here, abo ba Uhuru Kenyatta ne Odinga, these are dynasties. We have to crush the dynasties out of Kenya. Nekagamba nti, it is now time for us hustlers naffe okubanga tukolaki ekintu tukikwatamu. So kakati waliwo squad bbiri Kenya. There's those that are called the dynasties versus the hustlers. No, this one leads a group known as the hustlers. Those are just metaphors that they are using in Kenyan politics today. Now, this guy, you cannot be fighting a dynasty, like I told people. You cannot be fighting a dynasty in Kenya and propping up one in Uganda. That is how stupid this gentleman is. I'm very sorry to say this, but this guy, Taina Magezi, Museveni has just killed 90 people last year. Over 90 people were killed on the 19th of November as well as the 18th of November. Museveni is killing people by eating COVID funds. He has mismanaged COVID funds. They have stolen money left, right, and center. And you find this stupid man from Kenya coming to tell us that Museveni is the best president to rule Uganda. What is wrong with these people? And look what Museveni does in turn. He names an institute after him, an institute that is a ghost institute that's not there in the country. So of the two, I mean, these guys are, I mean, if they didn't have wives, I would have said that these guys are both in bed together. But who knows? Because the bromance that is between these people, I mean, it is really out of this world. And I have nothing against that particular thing, but, you know, it is really interesting for a head of a person in the Ruto's capacity to have made all those kinds of visits that are unofficial. It's like you're going to visit your boyfriend or your girlfriend. I mean, those are really unofficial visits. Even when you see them visiting each other, Raila Odinga, what is his name? This Samuel Ruto does not move tatambula na mchara way. And when Museveni is meeting, okay. So guys, this is the tweet. But this is the tweet. So this is the Kagai. Now, ono bano professor, boba abasibye chiwanyi. Professor nemunne, ono magoda, baba sibye chiwanyi. For them, they don't know what they are talking about. This might be the wife of Ruto, I think. So, Professor nemunne, baba sibye chiwanyi. Because Professor Museveni is doing PR. Chovola baliro BBC waandise mu Uganda is going to give. Actually, we have to go even on the BBC. Mu Uganda is going to give abantu emitwalo kumi. For 2 weeks now, they are trying to give out emitwalo kumi. So, accompanied President Museveni, accompanied Museveni in the laying of the foundation stone of the construction of the biological drugs mRNA vaccine facility in Matuga, Wachiso district, Uganda. This is the Kagai. So if you go here, if you can go here, Mula baka kati aba Museveni. Museveni is a result-oriented leader. His Mugundi, yellow time, his fake account. Mubulaba. This fake account, okumanya kali fake. It is followed. Okumanya Muhozi na Mulalu. I mean, these guys are so crazy. And I mean, I don't know why these people are so crazy. How can you follow this fake account followed by Muhozi Kainerugaba? Really? Let me even take a screenshot of this. Got another couple. Okay. Look at the people Muhozi follows. Now, I don't understand. Let's take a screenshot there, Tulabe. Tina Bay. So this is Muhozi's fake account. Katirabono. Neka nakasajja nako bakabachi. Chimuchiriyo chiwanuka. I haven't been here on so much. Now, it is really interesting. This is Muhozi's account. These are things that people, you guys, we should be looking out for. Maybe they be down, simanyi okunyonyereza, simanyi Museveni yafudde, simanyi tannafa. Those are, I mean, that's, now that thing is really interesting to me. Ekyokoza nti Museveni yafudde. I really, wala mukwano ga yanga eti, wekibanga kimunyiza, I think tugambire ddala nti yafudde because it looks like it's making him, it is making him run berserk. I was against that thing. Naye nze abakiga abamubikka babikke. Naye simanyi nti naye atya okufa. Why would you fear? Wobanga tofudde lwaki oba okitya? So guys, this is the tweet we have to go. Mugende mu attacking a tweet, you know, anytime that you can, because what these guys are doing is who sent you there? This, because even some of the Kenyans are actually against this guy's visit. So whenever you hit this and show that look here, no one is interested in this guy and he's not even welcome, it really helps a lot. So I'm really surprised that as Ugandans, we didn't do anything about this tweet, Ruto, William RUTO, and I think we should do something about it, because you can see all these fake accounts. There's a guy, Jordan posts. See, all these are Muhozi's accounts. They have a gundi. Gundi bwa Muhozi. Share. All those are Muhozi's accounts. So they are replying. Thank you so much. Look at this one. Followed by who? Mosi Karunji. Thank you for much, Ruto. Long live beloved president. These are these guys. So yo muna Kenya wamwe. Karuto. So guys, you keep an eye on Ruto. Keep a very keen eye on this guy, because whatever they are planning with Museveni is something that is big within East Africa. They might be planning even chaos, because the last time Ruto was in an election, there was a lot of violence. So many people died. And by the way, chikuseza ku Ruto, he's only era yetawulira wano mu matwale gano nti abeera wano Uganda, Tanzania, mpozi nayo Tanzania bamugobayo okuva Magufuli we yafa. Then South Sudan nayo ayitera okuyitirayo, but they don't like him. No one likes this guy. Maybe in Kenya he is popular. Naye in East Africa is not popular at all. No one likes him. Era n'okukyala kwe mu East Africa, it doesn't raise anything like people are excited to see William RUTO achadde bwazze ku okukyala maybe mu achadde wano, because look here, the host is as bad as the guest. The host is as bad as the guest. This guy is so bad. Ruto is really crazy. I don't like him. And I don't think Museveni likes him either. Because what Museveni is doing is he wants to piss off Gundi Uhuru Kenyatta, and he also wants to piss off uh, Odinga. Now, what is funny is the fact that what is interesting in Kenya now is, do you know why Kenya was not given the pipeline? Kenya tebajiwa pipeline because of that. You remember this the East African oil pipeline, Jibazi mpaka Tanga, over 7,000 kilometers, because Kenya was the shortest route. So Museveni yajima Kenya. Nagano jibawa, nagano tina will give it to Tanzania. And look what is happening. Because he thought his worry was Odinga might become president. And if the pipeline is passing through Kenya, Odinga might block it somehow. If at all it's already there, ne wabawe mbera tugeze kati nga bino Raila Gundi nga bino Ruto byakola deputy president najja okukyala e Uganda nga ne mukama we takimanyiiko, because his visit was not authorized by the president of Kenya, who is Jomo Kenyatta. What's his name? Uhuru Kenyatta. Was not authorized. So he's making these visits, impromptu visits to Museveni, I think in order to piss off Uhuru. So the reason as to why the pipeline was not given to Kenya is because Museveni was worried if Raila Odinga becomes president, he can easily cut off the supply of the pipeline, as well as anyone who is in Kenyatta's pocket. So now what we see is with Ruto, Museveni is well assured that he will be able to engage in the Kenyan politics, and he will be able to use the support of Ruto to pillage and attack other East African nations, especially Congo. Because if you see, Ruto is one of the only Kenyans who has maize plantations in the Congo, no other person. Now, the narrative of ADF, as well as the narrative of terrorists and Al-Qaeda or ISIS in the Congo, kitegeeza nti it's going to resurface. The last time Museveni attacked Congo, he had an ally of Rwanda. But at the moment, Museveni and Rwanda, they're not at good terms. They're not at good terms. Because what I'm seeing is Museveni is moving so much towards the French these days. Like the French are having more influence in the country than any other European country. And I don't know, but French companies are now becoming many, with the look of Total having the largest stake in our oil. Now, wano ku luguudo lw'Entebbe abagenda odusoloza era still Bafaransa, which is really interesting. And Museveni needs money to construct the pipeline. That is from Western Uganda to Tanzania and Tanga port. Now that kitegeeza nti because the only country ebadde esigaddewo egenda omuwa loan eyo ey'okuconstructing a pipeline ebadde France. All other countries have bakivaamu, maybe France or South Africa. Naye abasigadde bonna bakivaamu. For me, this is where the things get interesting. Guys, please go and tweet here. Anyway, Nudo kola mu Twitter protesting those abantu. But you guys keep an eye on that tweet. Umeke sure nti mugikolako ng'obuyiza bulagira, yeah? Because something is happening there. William Ruto, tukimanyi bulungi ki kyakola. And the tactics that Museveni has been using, William Ruto will use as well. I mean, if you dig this guy deep, Ojakulaba, since I think 2010-8, nga achali MP wa Eldoret, I think Eldoret North. ng'alina akavubuka era katambula nako. Akavubuka ako nkamanyi kuva Makerere. Baali bakayita Kamau. Now that boy called Kamau Gideon, for those of you who were in Makerere in 2000, was it 2008, 2007? No, 08. I think 2009 or 10. Guys abali Makerere nga during the guild campaigns. Kamau Gideon, the assistant to this guy, Gideon, whatever, Ruto, twali naye Makerere, he contested for the guild race. He was the only Kenyan in the race. I remember that was the year when guild president, some gentleman known as Shaban Senkubuga, was also running. Now Gideon Kamau sold his candidature. Yatunda ekifo kye n'akiguza ow'NRM. N'agamba bannakenya bonna, oba yagamba bannakenya oba yagamba bana. But Kamau was a very, very yali muyayaye. Actually, he was doing low. That guy called Gideon Kamau. I think he's got try to meet Kamau. Yali yitalinya ddala. That guy who stood for guild president Makerere 2010, he's the one behind the William RUTO Institute of Leadership in Makerere. Ruto teyasomerako Makerere almost. I don't think teyasomerako Makerere. Let me see here. Let me look him up. I don't remember him having gone to Makerere University. We should have known at least. Maybe yasomerayo. Don't another room line. Shaba. Emisange CV. He has a CV. It is one CV that it shouldn't. Yasomera University of Nairobi. He didn't even go to Makerere University. Nebamugulamu Institute. PhD from University of Nairobi, graduating in 2018. Oh, okay. Well, good luck, young man, because you will need it. Nefe Uganda tujja kukkiriza. Kitegeera. Okay, guys, that is the tweet. Mugende ku Twitter ya Ruto when you get time. Because most of you might ask, okay, why is it important? Now, why it is important? Because it shows that we are in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Kenya. Number two, kwekula governor Kenya anti for us, William Ruto is not welcome in this country when he is causing up with dictatorial dynasties. Have you guys seen the assassination of this guy in Haiti? Or Moise, Jovenel Moise. Moise Jovenel. Yagaana okuteekawo akalulu. Abannamawulire abakubye emiggo okwagala okubatta. Like, guy, he was turning into an autocrat. Right now, people jumped the fence ya presidential palace. Guy ne bamukuba amanda. Now, what you have to know is Haiti it's the first black nation to ever attain independence. Yensi eyasooka okufuna independence. Now, Haiti is known for so many things. Number one, because I think it got its independence since, let me look it up here. It got its independence in 1791? Yeah, Haiti. So it got its independence. But it's known basically for this gentleman known as Papa Doc Duvalier, one of the most brutal dictators the earth has ever seen. Now, Papa Doc wafa mu 1986. N'aleeta mutabani we gwe bayita Baby Doc. Papa Doc was a doctor, naye nga afuga ensi like nga afuga oba nga afuga ki. Like he was treating the countrymen as children. So Haiti as a country, since but they're very stable, bambi, unfortunately. Like they have had their fair share of dictators and governments coming and going. But government, but in fact, Baronda guy nga DJ. Bali bamuyita oba Mickey, oba DJ Mickey, something of that sort. Before this guy who died, I think. There is a guy that they voted. He was a DJ. Nebamufuula president. So it is really interesting, the politics of Haiti. If you go and look it up and look into the situation, I've been trying to read and see what happened. But this is what happened is not gwetolina kutya nnyo. But when that happens, when a president is assassinated anywhere in the world, it sends a lot of shockwaves to every leader in the world. It reminds leaders in power that no one is safe, that anytime someone can take you out. It might be someone close to you. It might be anyone. It might be your plane. It might be your car. Abantu abasoose okufuna amawulire ga Juvenal Moise nga yakafa ba presidents abensi naddala bannakyemalira Museveni yagafunye. And trust me, that is why Museveni came out n'agamba sinnafa lwaki mumbika buli ambika akwatibwe. Bulijjo tumubikka lwaki abatanyiiga. Naye Haiti we bamukubye amasasi n'afa ate nga naye abadde agendanga beeranga nakyemalira. Abadde si mubi nnyo baati nga kutuuka ku ssa lya Museveni, naye abadde afuuse nga nakyemalira. Kati musajja ne bamukuba amanda. Ekisese Haiti kye kino, guys. You hear, listen to this. Abadde alina okubeera nga ye interim president abadde addako, prime minister yafa COVID. Prime minister yafa COVID. Abadde alina okuddako awo. No, prime minister oba no. Is it the prime minister abadde? Prime minister oba yafa COVID nga yabadde alina okusikira ono guy. Then prime minister afa COVID. Abadde yaddako awo oba baali bamutta oba baali bamukyusa oba abadde mulwadde oba yabaaki. Kwegamba biri awo tebitegerekeka. Okakkana, they had to go third in line. In Africa, the first president to be assassinated, baali bamuyita Slavenus Olympio, yali president we Togo. Musajja yamu assassinating nga baali bamuyita Jinsimbe Eyadema. I think it was around in the 70s there. Slavenus Olympio bamukuba amasasi ne bamutta. African leaders ebiseera ebyo, they had every African leader, from the Nkrumahs as well as to the dictators. Like, they couldn't believe it. Because they're like, how would this happen? Omuntu okubeera ba president amasasi n'amutta. How would that happen? Kati no munnaye Eyadema ye yaggulawo akaggi k'oku assassinatinga abakulembeze mu Africa. Munange Eyadema nga naye agenda afa. Bw'afa n'addira mutabani we gwe bayita Faure, F-A-U-R-E, anti Olufalansa nze sirutegeera bulungi. Fure oba Faure oba Fure Eyadema ye yatwala Entebbe. Gwe Kamala, oyo guy we yamala okufa. He died of natural causes. But this is what is interesting. Nti we bakuba akaggi ka Slavenus Olympio, oyo omusajja we Togo ye Eyadema ne bamu-invitinga mu OAU n'ajja n'atuula ne boogera. You see, the problem of Africa is with us Africans ourselves. We have failed to stand our ground. Africa as a continent terina standard. Every Tom, Dick and Harry, buli president asobola okujja, ono waba musamize president yajje, oli wabanga president is a healer or yajje, ono wabanga mugwi wa ddalu. Because we even had presidents who were literally mad, like Francisco Macias Nguema of the Equatorial Guinea. That guy was mad. Francisco Macias Nguema okumanya yali mulalu. He was literally mad, berserk. Yali nga anywa enjaga, ng'anywa ne gundi cocaine, ng'anywa ne drug bagiyita iboga. Eri ekuba, like temanyi ezo njaga zammwe ze munywa Uganda. Iboga, that's what he used to drink. He chased each and every one out of the country. He closed all the schools. N'atema enguudo. Abantu we baagezaako okudduka, enguudo zonna n'azitema, amaato gonna n'agookya. These people were mad. Africa had to intervene. OAU as an organization, it is the organization that has kept Africans okubanga tuli underdeveloped, okutukuumira in a subordinate role, okutukuumira mu mbeera gye tulimu ey'olwaleero. Number one, this is the first issue they created. Ekisooka they recognized the borders that the white men created. Now, when you see these foolish dictators who come out and start abusing the West and start abusing Americans and the British and all this kind of stuff, look here, if I can come, let me come today and teach about colonialism and how bad these people were. I can do that the entire day. But, kankubulire, the day African leaders sat nebakkiriza the boundaries that were drawn by the white people, that is the day our problems started. So whatever, there are more conflicts on the continent about boundaries and borders than any other conflicts. Some of the issues that spark conflict and instability in Africa, ziva kunsonga za boundaries, ziva kunsonga za borders, ziva kunsonga za it is things to deal with ethnicities. But ethnicities, when you break it down, it leads up to where a particular tribe starts and where a particular tribe ends in terms of territory. Do you get what I'm trying to mean? That's why you see it. I was telling Mosh last time. That's why we see it in Nigeria. People killed themselves during the Biafran War. People literally massacred themselves because you had the Yorubas on one side, and then you had the Igbos on one side, and then you had the Yorubas as well as the Fulanis, the ones from the north and the ones from the south. So they wanted to split the country into two. But when the white people were drawing these boundaries, they never put this into recognition that, look here, there are some people here who are known as the Igbos, and then we have also the Yorubas, and then we have the Fulanis. These people are quite different. These ones are Muslims. These ones are predominantly Christian. Nigeria is the only country on the continent of Africa that has an equal sum number of people in terms of religion. It has like 50% Muslim and 50% Christian. Now, if you round that off, the number of Muslims and the number of Christians, it is the same thing they did in Cameroon. These people are so crazy. You see, when the Africans, we recognize these boundaries, Kakani Museveni wavayo navuma abazungu. But look here, you are a president of Uganda because the Bazungu created these boundaries. If Museveni was a true Pan-Africanist, if Museveni was a true person who believed in the ideals of Africanism, he should have, number one, said, okay, the Bazungu did this and this and this. The first thing that we have to do is to redraw the boundaries of Africa. And when you are going to redraw the boundaries of Africa right now, you have to go back and understand the dynamics of the continent in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of tribes. That is why you see like federal systems of governments are trying to work on different parts of the continent. Because when you go to Nigeria, they have a federal system whereby they share leadership. Never go and okay, let the northerners this time rule, let the southerners this time rule. Let the Muslims this time rule, let the Christians this time rule. They interchange. Nti Buhari wavao waddawo mulala. Ya adua wavao ne waddawo Goodluck Jonathan. Oshtegera. Olugusenyo Obasanjo wavao ne waddawo ani. Is it Ya Adua? Yeah. Yafa. When Ya Adua died, ne zile tono. Buhari. Muhammad Buhari, I think. No. Nezileta Goodluck Jonathan. Goodluck Jonathan wavao nezileta Muhammad Buhari. Goodluck Jonathan, I think it was Obasanjo. Obasanjo wanted to touch the Nigerian constitution. Bamugamba Obasanjo obotu agazemirebe. Do not touch that constitution. He left it. He did touch the constitution of Nigeria. And someone else comes in. So, going back to my point, I do not care whoever person you're talking about. They will have no Pan-Africanist on the continent of Africa. There is absolutely no Pan-Africanist. Not even these Professor Lumumba, oh, those people are not Pan-Africanists. None. And the problem of our founding fathers of Africa, this is the biggest challenge they did. Because these people are so crazy. Especially my fellow brethren, Pan-Africanism. They cannot even, right now Pan-Africanism has changed. They cannot even describe what it means. Because when you ask someone about Pan-Africanism, they will just tell you, okay, Africa needs to come together. Africa needs to be one. Africa needs to have one currency. Bro, before Africa even existed, before even we had these modern 53 states, we had over 10,000 tribes that were on the continent. Now, someone will come out and say, no, tribes do not matter today. Do you mean that people who are living in Ghana, Nigeria, you're just going to tell them that, okay, all of a sudden the Asante Hene does not matter? The people who live in Mali, are you just going to tell them that, okay, the Bedouins do not matter all of a sudden? And what is funny with Pan-Africanism is this. It is so much focused on Black Africa, and it is not focused on the brown or Arab part of Africa. There is a very big distinction between the Arabs in the north and the blacks in sub-Saharan Africa. Because what that creates is that the Arabs in the north identify themselves as people from the Middle East. They identify themselves more, or they align themselves more with the people in the Middle East rather than aligning themselves more with Africans. They are only African when they are sitting in the OAU and when they are seeking recognition. For example, countries like Morocco, because they are having issues with Western Sahara and they want Western Sahara to be part of Morocco, so they will be part of the OAU in order to get numbers that can recognize their country. So even if you go to countries like Somaliland today, some of you do not know that Somalia is divided into two countries. We have what we call Somalia, Gundi. Then we have what we call Somaliland. Now, what happened is as a result of colonial problems, because Somalia was ruled between the French as well as the British. So when Somalia got its independence, it was a unification of these two territories. Now, all of a sudden, when it descended into mayhem, the Kugundi, the area of Somalia and the Yagama, for us, we want to separate to Agara Bivamu. We no longer want this unification. Why are there so many people that are looking for secessions? Why is it that on the continent of Africa, most people would not tell like everyone that comes out is a secession? Even in Tanzania today, for those of you who are praising Magufuli, and I always laugh. I always told you, I would always laugh that. I would always have the last laugh. People say that Magufuli, okay, Magufuli, I do understand he did a lot. In fact, Magufuli's policies were not Pan-Africanist policy, whereas people would try to put all these things on Pan-Africanism. Magufuli I would say that he was the Trump of Africa. Sorry, he was the Trump of Tanzania. Like make Tanzania great again, although he was iron-fisted. And also this issue of COVID, it tainted his image. That is why now, for people who are praising Magufuli for testing purpose with COVID-19, amapapa in testing positive, testing positive. Tell me, what do you have to tell Fazil now? That there was no COVID in Tanzania? So Magufuli lied. Magufuli literally lied to the people. May his soul rest in peace, but he lied. He tested purpose and is testing a positive. These were all PR stunts. Speak the truth always. If there is a scourge, if there is something, you get a mazima, period. Have we forgotten that we praised Magufuli ntino COVID itali Tanzania netumuwana wanonga warwanyisiza COVID? Have we forgotten? So where does this leave Magufuli now that we have tested? Be careful. You don't know what is happening in Tanzania. Tanzania is called Tanzania because of a unification between Zanzibar as well as Tanganyika. That is why we call it Tanzania today. But today, there are movements in Zanzibar that are looking to split the country into two. Why are people in Zanzibar not happy with the administration in Dodoma? Why? Now, for those of you who don't know, Salumia Suruhu comes from Zanzibar. Enough for those of you who need to understand most of this politics of Tanzania, you should go and listen to that guy Tundu. He will break it down for you, and how Magufuli was actually bringing people from his own tribe and bringing them closer, sidelining the Kikwete group, of which Kikwete thought that he would control Magufuli. And then Kikwete helped Magufuli to come to power, but no sooner had Magufuli gotten into power, he started firing every close person of Kikwete. And Kikwete got pissed, though he was still powerful in the background. And he had a wee bit of support within the army on tribal grounds. So Magufuli was promoting his own people on tribal grounds. So it means that there is a very big issue that we have to address as a continent in terms of tribe. We cannot just ignore tribes. We cannot just ignore people's ethnicities, because that is the bedrock on which Africa as a continent is being built on. Now, the concept of Pan-Africanism comes out, that you guys just forget about your tribes or just forget about your ethnicities. I do understand, me as a person, that, okay, tribalism has some good things and also has some bad things. Tribalism, not in the sense of how you understand tribalism, but tribalism in the sense on how we identify ourselves with different tribal groups. Because that's how we are made. That's how we are made. Like God created us in tribes. That's how we create. That's how nations are created. That's how we are creating. That's how they are created. If you go to countries like Saudi Arabia, some of you do not know that Saudi Arabia is the house of Saud. It is the house of Saud, formed in 1921 after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. So that when you see the fall of the Ottoman Empire, we see the prop up of new states. That is how nation states are formed, or whatever states. That is how countries are formed. Countries. It is always the collapse of something huge, and then we see the coming up of states. The fall of the Soviet Union. We talk about USSR, a good day, then the movement and see Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, all those countries, the movement, the splitting. What do you call that country? In the Middle East, French influence was there, as well as the British influence. So in the British, after the Second World War, after the First World War, they created new states in Arabia. It's also nations like Yemeni, Sijui Qatar, Sijui Bichi. All these were tribes. Zinozari tribes, they kingdoms. They were tribes. Out of those tribes, they created these nations. These people, they are rich. But someone will ask, okay, fine. Because look here, this is not going to be solved today. That is why you see that most people wanted to take the communism or socialism was very, very popular in Africa post-independence, because socialism was anti-identity. It was anti-religion. The Soviets were anti-religion. These people, the Gorbachevs, the Lenins, the Stalins, Bona. Stalin, for your information, was a thief. He was a thug. Because when you see ideas, Karl Marx. Karl Marx is the almost, some people might say he's the grandfather of socialism, or communism and all that kind of stuff. So the people who led the Russian Revolution in 1917, Leon Trotsky, Vladimir Lenin, Nabalala, they are the ones that created this idea of communism and socialism. And communism, the first time it surfaced on the face of the earth, it was overthrowing a monarchy, or it was overthrowing Wakabaka over Russia in 1917 revolution. So when they overthrow the revolution, change the entire social order, kill bakwata kabaka wa Nicholas, ne bamukwala mu banka, ne bakwata abaana be, mukyala we, all. I think there were in total of 8 people. Ne bakuba amasasu bonna ne babatta. That guy Leon Trotsky as well as Vladimir Lenin. Now when that ended, revolution wegwa, Lenin natandika okulwana, Trotsky ne batandika okulwana ne Lenin. But in the end, Lenin came out, he was triumphant, because Lenin empowered thugs. Literally, Stalin was a thug. Stalin, yali movie, Joseph Stalin, he was a thug. But all these people were anti-identity. They didn't want anything to deal with tribe. They didn't want anything to deal with religion. Communists were anti-religion. That's what communists. And I really laugh when I see people saying, "Oh, maybe I'm a communist." Chovola anti-communism failed in Africa, because whoever tried it, he ended up overthrown. Bang. Out, all of them. So what happened is, in post-colonial Africa, they had to reinvent their own sort of socialism that would embed the three that would encapsulate 3 things: religion, tribe, as well as the social, as well as their dictatorial touch. They created things known as Nkurumaism. They created things known as Nassaism, created things known as Mobutuism. They created things known as Bandaism. That's what they created. Their own brand of socialism. Now, if you go to one of the long-lasting monarchies of Africa, they really suffered under these leaders that had socialist ideologies. For example, if you go to Ethiopia, the monarchy was overthrown. The emperor was murdered and killed by who? Haile Mariam Mengistu, who was a socialist. If you come to Uganda, Milton Abalo Obote was aligned with the socialists. So he overthrew the monarchy, he overthrew the Kabaka, blah, 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 blah. Now, for Nkrumah, it was really interesting. It was a very interesting factor. Because in Nkrumah, he made so many mistakes. Because of his socialism. He thought that, because look here, I'm not a pro-capitalist. Because capitalism is this idea of free market. Let everyone do whatever they can. Let everyone trade the way they can. Now, socialism, it is the government that has to take care of the people in terms of welfare, in terms of education, in terms of everything. That is what socialism is all about. That the government has to control your life. But in capitalism, it calls for less government control. Now, if you go around the world, you will never find a country that is 100% communist. You will never find a country that is 100% socialist. You will never find a country that is 100% capitalist. That's why when you come to the UK, by now, there is a bit of socialism or communism as well as a hint of capitalism. Indeed, we live in a free market, but you will find things whereby, in terms of the National Health Service, that is a socialist element, whereby the government takes care of the people in terms of health. But in the end, the people have to pay taxes in one way or the other. Socialism, this is the ideologies. They really failed so bad. If you go to Goracholo was the worst dictators of this world were all having socialistic ideologies. If you go to Cambodia, another guy Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge, literally they killed people to death in Cambodia. If you go to China, Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was a very good friend of Stalin. In fact, Mao Zedong was admiring Stalin. We are going to Stalin, your more sent Stalin, Namuma sent. Yerimunkawaza Stalin, watch your Mao Zedong. But through his campaigns, this is how stupid these people were. Okay, he created his own brand of socialism, Jamaita Maoism. You see where these things all come from? China was anti-religion. Mao, these were people who were not believing in anything. They never believed in God. Stalin never believed in God. But Gorbachev, Banyavo, Gundi, they never believed in God. But Vladimir Lenin, they never believed in God. Trotsky, but now they were anti-God. And they were anti-identity, kind of thing. But in the end, what happened? 1990, the world broke down. But look what this gentleman did, Mao, to his own people. He killed over 13 million people through stupid campaigns. You know what the guy did? Back on a Jabaita 3P revolution, I think. Pests. Nebatta ebiwuka byonna ebyali mu ttaka. Nebatta ebinyonyi byonna mu nsi in the entire China. Because Mao yavaayo n'agamba nti bannange ebiwuka bino biri mu kulya nnyo kasooli waffe wheat. Tukwate buli anaasobola okutta ebinyonyi mubitte mubindeetere wano buli anaaleeta ebinyonyi ebisukka mu 1,000 ngenda musasula ssente. These stupid people killed birds all over the country. Do not joke with nature. Because of these socialist ideas, Mao killed almost all birds out of the country. Babuta. Mugende mu kisomeko. Ebinyonyi byadduka. We bidduka ne bigenda ne seeking a sanctuary to embassies all over the country. Abayaye ba Mao ne batambula ku embassies nga bakuba ebisaniya ne bakuba. Do you know what they did? They would shoot down the birds, but then they would miss. Meaning that they wouldn't kill them enough. So this is what they did. Mao nabagamba mufune ebisaniya mufune buckets mukube, make noise so that you chase the birds away from trees so that you chase the birds away from all these places. The birds literally died of exhaustion. They were exhausted and the birds died. That is communism for you. And that is Museveni's philosophy, because Museveni is a Marxist as well as a socialist. Kabisa, that's who he is. He doesn't believe in religion. Museveni, that is what he is. Now, this is what happened in Mao's era. Mao, we were okuba ebinyonyi byonna ne bifa mu nsi ne babimalamu nga balowooza nti bannaye twebaza Katonda ebinyonyi tubikubye kasooli agenda kumera kati bibadde biri ensigo zaffe. I'm sorry to say, but Mao was crazy. Do you know what happened? Tulina kye tuyita mu environment tukiyita batya? Mukiyita batya mu environment ekyo? How to create that sort of balance. Now, this is what happened. What Mao didn't know is that these birds had some usefulness for his plants to grow. Ebinyonyi bino byalinga birya obuwuka buwams obwabeeranga mu kasooli ono oba mu wheat oba mu muceere nga zirya obuwuka obwo nga zirya obuwuka buli. Kakati buli we zaalyanga obuwuka obwo, whereas zaalyako omuceere ogumu, but the majority of the rice would grow. Kakati by the killing the birds, kitegeeza obuwuka buli obwali bulya, ebinyonyi ebyali birya obuwuka buli byonna byali biweddewo nga bifudde. Do you know what happened? Obuwuka bwali emmere yonna all over China. And do you know what happened? Over 13 to 15 million people died of hunger and starvation. When the people went to China to do research about this great famine, bagenda ne babuuza, bannange, how come we don't see any animals in this country? We don't see any dogs. We don't see anything. Abantu babagamba nti, look here, by the time you came, people had already started eating the dogs. In China, they eat so many things like bats, snakes. Chinese famine and such sorts of things. Because of that famine, they went through. The Chinese Great Famine. Very interesting topic. And the concept of communism, Marxism, as well as capitalism. People started eating each other. Cannibalism was there in China during Mao's era. And where did Mao get his ideology? Yazija kuba Karl Marx, yazija kuba Lenin. I'm not saying that they are not temuni concepts inungi mu socialism or mu communism. There are some good things in there. But if a leader or if a dictator adopts communism or socialism as his ideology, he aberanga someone mad on steroids, like abera really, really, really mad. Abera mad. Chovola bantino bonna abakulembeze ba Africa abatekinga ideology as their stand. Most of them, they were thrown out of power. And by the way, whereas there was an influence of the West by overthrowing these leaders, but most of these leaders was for their own making. For example, Kwame Nkrumah, there is legitimate research, so there is the legitimate concern that Nkrumah was over, the CIA played a very big role to overthrow Nkrumah. Everything is there. But on the other hand, when you go back to the country itself, Ghana, people in Ghana, Nkrumah had become a bit unpopular because of corruption. Because Nkrumah was spending so much money building infrastructure, that is why whenever he was overthrown, the first thing they did, his statue was brought down. If at all Nkrumah was very popular in Ghana, how come he was never reinstated? Those are questions we should ask ourselves as people who are in Pan-Africanism. People should understand that Pan-Africanism, or our founding fathers, they made these mistakes. And we have to learn from these mistakes. And the mistakes, in order not to repeat them. You shouldn't be like those French saying that you learned nothing and forgot nothing. If you see people praising these so-called leaders, oh, this leader is so good. Yeah, they were good. They have their goods. But we can also learn from their challenges, because Nkrumah wanted to unify Africa, and that was something very good. So many people have tried. Gaddafi, the biggest sponsor of the Organization of African Unity, Gaddafi yali akyasiza okuteeka ssente mu OAU. For some of you might not even know, whenever Professor Ali Mazrui was asking a question, and it was a very relevant question to me as an individual, I really sat down and thought about it. Ali Mazrui asked, where does Africa start and where does Africa end? Some people might say that Africa ends at the Sinai. The Sinai, that is the region of Egypt that borders Egypt and Israel, or Palestine for that case, and Saudi Arabia. Now, someone would say, kakati tuwachine Saudi Arabia na yetu tujibalira kwa Africa. Ruachine Palestine tujibalira kwa Africa. In fact, the entire Middle East should be Africa. Uachi tugamba nti Africa koma wano ero tujiyita Middle East. Ate Middle East is not a continent. Naye mujibalira mu Asia. Ate Asia eri. Chitegeeza nti this part of Middle East was also part of Africa, according to Ali Mazrui. Because these people in the Middle East have the same norms, they have the same customs, but now they are like Africans, because there's so much trade between the Middle East and the European world. There's so much trade in Egypt. There's so much trade in Morocco. For those of you who don't know, in 1776, whenever the Americans got their independence from the British, the American endagaano ekyasinze okuba enkadde mu nsi eriwo wakati wa America ne Morocco, an African country. The longest, the oldest treaty that the Americans have with any other country in the world, it is with Morocco. It was signed with the Moroccan king. Because the Moroccans were very, very strong in the Mediterranean region. They had people who were called I think they were called the Berbers. Now, Berbers were pirates that would capture ships and boats and things of that sort. So this is what happened. The Americans were very poor, and they were trying to get into the global trade. So the then president reached out to the leader of Morocco and said that, okay, if you go and read that treaty, it has very, very, very interesting things. Very interesting articles because this was a treaty that was taking place between a Muslim and a Christian nation. A treaty taking place between an African country and a new state called the United States of America. That treaty. And whenever I sit back and I see these so-called Americans, people saying that, oh, America, Muslims, blah, 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 blah. They don't know that their oldest treaty is with Muslims. But what is funny is Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanist, they only recognized Black South Africa. We have great Arab leaders who are because now you will ask yourself, who is an African to you? You're preaching Pan-Africanism, who is an African? Why would you elevate Kwame Nkrumah, but you don't talk about this gentleman known as Gamal Abdel Nasser? Gamal Abdel Nasser is not known in history. He's not known in African history so well. As Nkrumah, Gamal Abdel Nasser should be here as well as Nkrumah here. These two should be here. Gamal Abdel Nasser is the person who influenced people like Gaddafi. Gaddafi is one of the people who is very good to black. There is no other Arab African leader that has ever been good to black Africans like Muammar Gaddafi. I can put Gamal Abdel Nasser somewhere there, second, because Nasser is one of those people who championed or who were for the United States of Africa, number one. Nasser, Gamal Abdel Nasser. Secondly, Egypt had created an alliance with Syria, the United Arab, because it wasn't called Egypt during Nasser's time. Most of you don't know that. It was called the Union of... let me look it up. I don't want to forget this stuff. Okay. Bali bagiyita erinnya eryo mulimanyi mmwe. United Arab... It was because of a union. United Arab Republic. That's what they called it. It is because Egypt had created a union between Egypt and Syria. Kati NASA n'azireetawo ezensibi kyova olaba maziruya akugamba where does Africa stop and where does it end? Africa does not end at the Suez. Because most people think that, okay, so Africa should, that continent one what is go. Africa was never cut off. The Suez Canal the Suez Canal is a man-made future. And the continent of Africa was intact with the Middle East. When they built the Suez Canal, or Ferdinand de Lesseps in 1856, I think that's what 76. That's when they started constructing it. Then that's when, because 1876, that's when they started constructing it. 1886, that's when the Berlin Conference started, and then they started the Scramble and Partition of Africa. So they had a different program for Africa and a different program for the Middle East. So what that means is it is the white man that tells us that Africa stops here because of their stuff, and then the Middle East starts from here. But the entire Middle East was also Africa. Chovola Wantino, NASA, Gamal, managed to create a union between Syria and Egypt to have the United Arab Republic. So when the Musevenis come out and start saying that, oh, Africa, this, no, shut up. Shut up, simple. Because the same boundaries that you're professing to be a president today, that you have ruled for 35 years, they were created by the whites. If it wasn't for the whites, Museveni would not have been president. So if Museveni was a true person who was against the whites and who was a Pan-Africanist, first thing he would have done is not to recognize the boundaries that were created by the whites and say that, okay, guys, we need to sit back and redraw these boundaries. No African leader that can bring that up. And it is the same problem that we are facing today. It is the same problem. It emerges from boundaries. And boundaries, they come about because if a boundary doesn't have people in it, if a territory doesn't have people in it, it cannot create chaos. It cannot create antagonism. But if a territory has people in it, people are going to fight. Because that is their livelihood, that is their land, that's their identity. So we were thrown into these boundaries that we call Uganda today, and then we are all in there together. They are Cholis, the Langis, the Baganda, the Basoga, the Batoro, everyone is there. 53 states, 1.8 billion, over 2 by 2020, which will be like 2.5 billion people on the continent, but just 53 states. And then, let me tell you guys, this is what's going to happen. In the next 10 or 50 years, we are going to see more nations propping up on the continent. And saying that Africa, they are going to start splitting. Countries are going to start splitting into two. They are going to split. Now, this is my last argument. I've always told people, okay, look here. Who is an African and who is not? I've always told people, look here. If we go to South Africa, for example, we have people, Southern Africa. We have people who are light-skinned, who are Africans. They don't even know any relatives here in the West. But they are in South Africa. That's where they have been for generations, ever since the Boers came to South Africa, what, in 1770s, 1700s. Okay, kakati those people who have been in these countries for a long time. What would you say to them? Now, there's this argument that Africa is the origin of man. Do you know why they say that? It is because Middle East, it was part of Africa. And where does the name itself come from? Africa is a Greek name. It's not even an African name. I mean, I don't want to go down there, but what I'm saying is this. Who is an African? Why are we distinguishing people from black, brown, and white? Yes, even if there is segregation in Africa online, on Arab, but does that take away someone's identity of being an African? So we should say that this is an African segregating against another African. We should own it and find means on how to fight it. If a black American is being segregated against, they won't say that, okay, this one is a black American. Okay, go. Okay, there are some people who have those racist things. But then we are also racist in one way or the other if we discriminate people according to their color just because they are on the continent. and they are on a continent where they have lived for thousands of years. And maybe we should start telling them to go back to their countries, just as they are telling us to go back to our countries in America. Do you get my point? My point is, if we decide to say that this is Africa, we should not discriminate people according to the colors of their skin. If someone is brown, he's African. If someone is white, he's African. That's it. Simple as that. Just as you say, if someone is black, he's American. If someone is Indian or whatever, is American. Irrespective. What makes you American? What makes you African? So if Museveni starts abusing people, that the whites, the Wazungu, the this and this and that, it defeats my mind. Is this a true Pan-Africanist? No, he's not. Because to him, Pan-Africanism is a color, and the color is only black. So even if you're a bit light-skinned, you don't cut it. Now, finally, what is the solution? The solution to the problems of Africa, or other problems of Uganda in particular, we have to recognize that people have their own identities. People are religious. We are not living in a communist world. We are not living in a socialist world. This is not Marx's world, or Trotsky, or Lenin, or Stalin. This is not their world. Or Mao. Yeah, people can have a right to be atheists or agnostics. But in the same aspect, people should have a right to be Muslims, Christians, and Jews. They should have that right. Whereas we can say that we should be united as one, that Africa should be united as one, and not look at people according to their tribes. Yes, we should recognize that, but we should also understand that tribe is the identity and the bedrock on which the continent was built. We should learn to exist, we should learn to exist even with these challenges. The idea of tribe will only die out by itself. It's not going to be forced out. If today you look for Vikings, Vikings in Sweden or Denmark, in those Nordic countries, you can never find them. The Icelandic. Okay, there is tradition. The tradition is still there, and a few things, bits and pieces here and there. But you won't find them. Where are the Saxons? What happened to the Saxons? They are nowhere to be seen. It just dies out completely on its own as a result of intermarriages, as a result of generational changes, as a result of migration. Then people will just say, if you go to Spain, Spain was ruled by Muslims. I've always told people, Spain was ruled by Muslims for around 1500 years. It was a Muslim country. That's why it was called Andalusia. Andalusia. Andalusia is an Arabic word. This is how nation states were created, modern Spanish states. European history, there was no country. Where is Prussia? What happened to a country known as Prussia? If you look at countries like Italy, we are created out of unifications. Sicily, Lombardy, Garibaldi, Mazzini, and all these other people. Germany, unification. Germany was just there were people called the barbarians. You know where that word comes from, barbarians? I think it's called Bavaria, German, or whatever, barbarians. These were German people. These were Germanic, we called them, history to Azitanga, Germanic tribes. But look what Germany has went through, to the extent that maybe the ideas of tribes all of a sudden died down. So the issue in Africa is that these people tried to create new states in 1886 when they sat in Berlin, when already Africa had its own existing states. Because most of these states were nations, the Kingdom of Zimbabwe, the Buganda Kingdom, the Bunyoro Kingdom, most of these kingdoms were states, were nations, because they had a social, economic, and a political way of life. Because you're not going to just wake up tomorrow and throw away a particular state. Let the state die out on its own. And you cannot just force it by killing its people, because resurgences will emerge. You don't do that. Unless if you say that, okay, we're going to put it to the vote and say, okay, do people still need the monarchy or not? Then you can put it to the vote. But you cannot put to a vote anything in this Africa today because there is no fairness. So that is what is happening, unfortunately. Because look here, I was reading about the Rwandan issue. Rwanda, for 500 years, there was no antagonism between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And there was no discrimination. Okay, they had a few things here and there where they would fight, but there was no discrimination until the Belgians and the Catholic Church came and started discriminating these people. When they discriminated them, they gave them IDs. And it is upon those IDs that they started massacring themselves. Who is to blame? In Central African Republic, the same thing happened between the Balakas and the Selekas, just because of religion. These ones were Muslims, these ones were Christians. So they killed themselves. But Central African Republic was a thriving community. If you go to the Gold Coast, if you go to Nigeria, if you go, all these areas were big empires. So guys, for me, whenever I sit down and think about Africa, I think Pan-Africanism is a pipe dream, especially Abantu and Abaji, the way they bring it up. And there's no one who has spoiled Pan-Africanism as these so-called African leaders that we have today. The Musevenis and all these dictators, they have spoiled the entire concept. And the idea of an African unification, also that one is just a utopic idea. It is something that is not likely to happen because so many countries are splitting apart and no one is willing to come together. Because we have so many challenges in terms of the tribe, that's you see. So in terms of language, you find French-speaking Africa, Spanish-speaking Africa, Portuguese-speaking Africa, as well as English-speaking Africa. A good example is Canada. If you go to Canada today, the French-speaking part of Canada wants to secede from the English-speaking part of Canada. And yet these are people, I mean, this is really funny. So the French in Canada, they want to split from the English-speaking part of Canada. If you go to the French-speaking part of Canada, it's a complete country almost than the English-speaking part of Canada. That's the same issue that we see in Cameroon, that the English-speaking part of Canada was brought together with the French-speaking part of Canada. And now people want to split the country on that ground. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we can have more of these conversations and sit down and discuss and try to break down most of these things. Because the truth of the matter is that people's identities are here to stay. If someone is I will not hate someone for being a Musoga, even if he's a Muhutu or a Mutusi. Look here, some people, okay, I understand most people have this idea of, oh, this one is Rwandese. Ono Munyarwanda. What do you mean by Munyarwanda? There was no country called Munyarwanda. It was not there. We don't have it in Africa. It's no country called Munyarwanda. There's no country called Uganda. No. But there is one that's called Buganda. I know that. There was no country called Uganda. Uganda is a creation of the West, of the Europeans in 1962. There's no country called Kenya. There's no country called Central African Republic. There's no country called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They were not there. So if you say that, okay, Munyarwanda, Ori Munyarwanda, Squagara, what about the Batwa? The Pygmies, they are very innocent people. Okay, what about the Hutus? Or what about the Tutsis? Okay, maybe you're a Pan-Africanist. So if you're a Pan-Africanist, what do you have to say? Do you want to tell me, the Tutsis, they come from Europe? They are Africans. The Tutsis do not come from Europe. They come from Africa. I'm not a stereotypical kind of personality. I believe in stereotypes. I can't paint all the people with the same brush because these people are all suffering. The same thing that happened under Mao's China. That is what I tell you about socialism. That socialism creates a narrative of us against them. And that's why you see that in most socialist countries, so many people have died. Even when the Soviet Union broke up in 1990s, we saw the emergence of genocides in Yugoslavia, in Srebrenica. Twalaba gundi izonga ziliwo genocides ono guy go baita Ratko Mladic and Slobodan Milosevic. They were massacring people on scale. Why were there so many brutalities in socialist states or countries that took socialism as their ideologies? Maliam Mengistu did the same. And this doesn't mean that in capitalistic countries it was not happening. It was happening in capitalists. If you go to West Africa, in Liberia, if you go to Ethiopia under Haile Selassie was not a socialist, he was a communist, he was a capitalist. So if you go to Rwanda, I mean, if you see someone is a Mutusi, okay, now there's this issue that most people do not understand. Because some people say that, because if you go back and read history, right? Now, this is what happened in Rwanda. The Tutsis, there's this idea that people profess, the Hamitic hypothesis. Hamitic hypothesis, yatandika n'omusajja bali bamuyita John Speake. John Speake said that any sort of development or any sort of any sort of enkulaakulana yonna yaliwo mu Africa. Oba ekintu kyonna kyonna ekyali kyewuunyisa kyonna kyonna mu Africa kyonna nti n'otuuka mu kingdom of Dahomey n'osanga nga waliyo abasajja ab'amaanyi, they have military skills, anything that was advanced that was found in Africa, it is called the Hamitic hypothesis, that anything that was found in Africa at the time of coming of the Europeans, it was brought in by a Caucasian who spread these kind of ideas to the Africans, and the Africans picked it up. In simple terms, the hypothesis says that Africans had no magezi agayiye ebintu bino byala batukola: iron smelting, charcoal burning, salt mining, leadership in terms of political leaderships, having a king, a particular, and all this kind of stuff. So they have this idea. There is no native Africans who would be wise enough to have this kind of things. Now, this is what happened. Hermetic hypothesis was put on Buganda as well as a country, because John Speake, the first example that he used in this hypothesis was Buganda. He said that Buganda has a link with some Caucasian people who came to Buganda as a kingdom and were able to establish the naval fleet, because Buganda was a very advanced kingdom, because it had a centralized system of government. Well, centralized or decentralized, with the Kabaka as the head, then you had the Katikiro, the chiefs, and all these sub-county things. So Speake was really fascinated that how could a tribe, how could a nation without it cannot read or write be able to do these things? So when they would move to other territories, they go to Ankole, they go to Acholi, they go to Lango, they go to all these places, and they see that these people they are not as backward as we thought. So whenever they were writing in their journals, they painted a picture that all these kingdoms in Africa, they are so developed, but the development only comes from some Caucasian who passed through these lands and taught these people these skills. So that's what we call the Hamitic hypothesis. Now, the Hamitic hypothesis has been put on the Tutsis in Rwanda, whereby they say that, oh, no, okay, because the Tutsis also had the same kind of development as we had in Buganda, by the way. And what is fascinating is that most people say that the Tutsis come from Ethiopia, but where does that theory come from? So if they come from Ethiopia as a Pan-Africanist, is the Ethiopia not Africa? It is Africa. Ethiopia is Africa. So whether the Tutsis come from Africa or they came from when they were around the continent, yes, regardless of where they came from, they are Africans. If you read about the Bantu migration, do you know the reason as to why Uganda is where we are? Do you know the reasons as to why we have people who are Nilotics, and we have people who are Hamites, and we have people who are Baganda, and we have people who are Bantu, we have intercastrian tribes and all this kind of stuff? Why is it that the people in Buganda or people in Ankole, people in what do you call the other ones? Bunyoro, if they are speaking, their lingua or their language is quite similar with the Zulu in South Africa. It's quite similar with the Zimbabweans, the Hossas, the Shonas. It is similar. Why? Don't you ever ask yourself that the language you speak is quite similar with the people in Congo, in the Congo Basin? Why? Don't you ask yourself? Don't you ask yourself why the language you speak has the word "into"? The word "into" means a person, omuntu, ubuntu. If you go to these countries, they all have this issue of "ntu," NTU. All these, if you go to South Africa, the Zulus, if you go to Zimbabwe, the Shonas, the Ndebeles, all those are Bantu speaking tribes. It means that we must have been together at one point in time. And when we managed to migrate to different parts of Africa, we kept that idea or that three-letter word, NTO, Ntu. So you see people saying Ubuntu. Where did that Ubuntu go? Thank you very much for listening. Have a blessed one. Meet tomorrow. Don't forget to visit William RUTO. Bye-bye.